I sat in that lawyer's office staring at the papers in front of me while my mother and brother waited for my answer. $800,000. That is what my grandfather left me when I turned 28. And that is exactly what they wanted. 3 years I spent building a life with Jessica. 3 years of Sunday morning pancakes, late night conversations, and planning a future together. I trusted her completely. I trusted him completely. But I never thought the person who would break me would be wearing my brother's face. And I definitely never imagined that after destroying me, they would have the nerve to ask me to pay for their mistake. Before I tell you how everything fell apart, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is going to take you on a ride you will not forget. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Jessica 3 years ago at a coffee shop in Seattle. She was a teacher at an elementary school, the kind of woman who always had paint stains on her jeans from art class and carried extra snacks in her purse for hungry kids. Her brown hair fell past her shoulders, and when she smiled, it felt like the whole room got warmer. We clicked instantly. Within 6 months, she moved into my apartment in Capitol Hill. Within a year, I knew I wanted to marry her. I had already started saving for a ring. I found this perfect spot overlooking Puget Sound where I planned to propose. I imagined how her eyes would light up when I got down on one knee. We had our routines. Every Sunday we cooked together. I would make the pasta, she would handle the sauce. We took a trip to Portland last fall, spent the weekend exploring bookstores and eating our way through food trucks. Everything felt right. Everything felt solid. Then there was Kyle, my younger brother, 3 years younger than me to be exact. He was 25 and still figuring life out, as my mother liked to say. He worked part-time at a bar downtown, the kind of place with dim lighting and too loud music. He had a way of charming people, that easy smile that made everyone think he was harmless. But Kyle had never been responsible. Not with money, not with relationships, not with anything. I had been covering for him since we were kids. When he crashed Dad's car at 17, I took the blame. When he needed rent money, I wired it without question. That is just what big brothers do, right? Our mother Linda always favored Kyle. She never said it out loud, but I felt it in every interaction. When I got into engineering school, she said congratulations and moved on. When Kyle got a job washing dishes, she threw a party. She had this way of making excuses for him. He is young, he is trying, he just needs time. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one. The one who did not need attention or praise because I was strong enough on my own. My dad passed away when I was 18, heart attack, quick and brutal. Before he died, my grandfather on my dad's side set up a trust for me, $800,000 to be released when I turned 28. Grandpa chose me specifically. He told me once when I was 16 that I reminded him of my father, hardworking, steady, someone who would use money wisely. Kyle was not even mentioned in the will. That should have told me something about how my family dynamics worked, but I was too young to understand it then. Jessica met Kyle at family dinners. My mom insisted on monthly gatherings, and Kyle always showed up late with some excuse. Jessica was kind to him. Too kind, maybe. She would ask about his job, laugh at his jokes, try to make him feel included. I thought it was sweet. I thought she was just being a good girlfriend, caring about my family the way I cared about hers. But then January rolled around, 3 months before my 28th birthday, 3 months before I would receive the inheritance. That is when things started shifting. Jessica became distant. She stopped texting me during her lunch breaks. When I came home from work, She would be on her phone, quickly closing whatever she was looking at when I walked in. She said she was stressed about work, new curriculum, difficult parents, the usual teacher complaints. I believed her because I had no reason not to. Kyle started showing up more often. He would drop by our apartment unannounced, claiming he was in the neighborhood. Jessica never seemed bothered by it. In fact, she seemed happy to see him. They would sit on the couch, talking and laughing while I worked in the other room. I told myself it was nice that they got along. I told myself I was lucky to have a girlfriend who liked my family. One night, I came home early from a work event. I walked into the living room and saw Jessica's phone light up on the coffee table. The message was from Kyle. It said, "Miss you too." I stared at those 3 words for a long moment. When I asked Jessica about it, she barely looked up from her laptop. "Kyle is going through something," she said. "I am just being supportive. He needed someone to talk to earlier. I wanted to push harder. I wanted to ask why my brother was telling my girlfriend he missed her." But I swallowed the question. I trusted her. I trusted him. I told myself I was being paranoid. February was worse. Jessica stopped wanting to be intimate. Every time I tried to initiate anything, she had an excuse. She was tired. She had a headache. She had papers to grade. I started feeling like a stranger in my own relationship. I started feeling like I was doing something wrong, like I was failing somehow. One afternoon, I left work early to surprise her with flowers. I pulled into our apartment complex and saw Kyle's beat-up Honda parked in the visitor spot. That was odd. He never mentioned he was coming over. I walked toward our building and spotted them sitting in his car, just sitting there talking. When they saw me, Jessica jumped out like she had been caught doing something wrong. "We were just chatting," she said. "Kyle needed advice about a girl." I looked at my brother. He would not meet my eyes. I looked at Jessica. Her cheeks were flushed. Something felt off, but I could not put my finger on what. So I smiled, said hello, and went inside with the flowers. Jessica followed a few minutes later. She kissed me on the cheek and thanked me for the flowers. Then she went to take a shower. I sat on the couch staring at those roses in their vase and felt something cold settle in my chest. Around the same time, my mother started asking questions about my finances. She wanted to know when exactly I would receive the inheritance. She wanted to know what I planned to do with it. I told her I was going to invest most of it, maybe buy a house eventually. She nodded, but I saw something calculating in her expression. She asked if I would help Kyle if he needed it. "Family takes care of family," she said. I did not answer. Then came early March, 2 weeks before my birthday. I woke up feeling awful, fever, chills, the whole deal. I called in sick to work and told Jessica I was staying home. She kissed my forehead, said she hoped I felt better, and left for school. I spent the morning in bed, drifting in and out of sleep. Around noon, I felt slightly better and decided to get up for water. That is when I saw Kyle's car in the parking lot. My heart started pounding. I stood at the window staring down at that Honda, trying to come up with a reasonable explanation. Maybe he needed something. Maybe he was dropping off something for Mom. Maybe it was nothing. But I knew. Deep down, I already knew. I walked to my bedroom. The door was closed. I never closed that door during the day. I stood there for what felt like an hour but was probably only 30 seconds. Then I opened it. Kyle and Jessica were in my bed. My bed, the one I had picked out with her. The sheets we had bought together at that home store in Bellevue. My work shirt was on the floor, crumpled next to her dress. They were tangled together, and for a split second, nobody moved. We all just froze. Then Kyle scrambled to pull the blanket over himself. Jessica started crying immediately. "Brad, I am so sorry. Brad, please." The words tumbled out of her mouth, but I could not hear them. There was this ringing in my ears, this pressure in my chest, like I could not breathe. Kyle tried to speak. Bro, I did not mean for this to happen. It just happened. Just happened. Like they tripped and fell into bed together. Like months of sneaking around was some kind of accident. I did not yell. I did not scream. I just looked at them both and said, "Get out." Jessica tried to grab my arm. "Please let me explain." There was nothing to explain. I had seen everything I needed to see. I walked out of the room, out of the apartment, and sat in my car. I did not know where to go. I just drove. That first week after I caught them, I did not leave my apartment except to get groceries. I took a week off work, told my boss I had the flu. Technically, I was sick, just not in the way he thought. I ignored every call, every text. Jessica left voicemails. "Brad, we need to talk. Brad, I love you. Brad, please do not do this." I deleted them all without listening past the first few words. Kyle texted me once. "I messed up. I am sorry." I did not respond. What was I supposed to say? "Thanks for sleeping with my girlfriend in my bed while I was at work, paying for the apartment you violated. My best friend Marcus came by 3 days in. He worked with me at the tech company, and when I did not show up for our usual coffee run, he got worried. I let him in because I knew he would not leave otherwise. He took one look at me and said, 'You look like garbage.' I told him everything. He sat there on my couch, the same couch where Kyle and Jessica used to laugh together, and he just listened. When I finished, he said, 'You deserve better, man.' Cut them both off." He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing something and doing something are different things. My mom called on day 5. I almost did not answer, but some part of me hoped she was calling to check on me, to ask if I was okay, to be my mother. Instead, the first words out of her mouth were, "Why are you ignoring Kyle?" Not, "How are you?" Not, "I heard what happened." Just, why was I ignoring the person who betrayed me? I felt something snap inside me. I told her the truth. I said Kyle slept with Jessica in my bed while I was supposed to be at work. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then she said, "You need to forgive him. He is your brother." I hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing that I had just lost more than a girlfriend and a brother. I had lost my mother too. 2 weeks after my 28th birthday, after the inheritance money hit my account, my mother called again. This time, her voice was different, urgent, serious. She said we needed to have a family meeting. Something important had come up. I told her I was not interested in family meetings. She said this was not optional. "Brad, you need to be here. Please." Against every instinct, I went. I drove to her house in West Seattle, the same house where I grew up, where Dad used to grill burgers in the backyard, where Kyle and I used to play basketball in the driveway. I walked in and saw them all sitting at the dining room table. Mom, Kyle, and Jessica. Jessica looked terrible. Her eyes were swollen like she had been crying for days. Kyle sat next to her holding her hand. That image hit me harder than I expected. They were together, really together. This was not just some affair. This was a relationship. I stood in the doorway. "I am here. What do you want?" My mother gestured to the empty chair across from them. "Sit down, Brad. We need to talk about something important." I stayed standing. Jessica looked up at me, and her voice came out small and shaky. "I am pregnant." The room tilted. I gripped the back of the chair to steady myself. For a second, I thought maybe she was about to tell me it was mine, that we had one last chance to fix this. But then Kyle spoke. "The baby is mine." Of course it was. Of course. I should have seen this coming. Why else would they call me here? I looked at my mother. So why am I here? Why do I need to know this? She folded her hands on the table like she was about to deliver a business proposal. Kyle cannot afford to raise a child. He has no stable job, no savings. You just received your inheritance, $800,000. We need you to help Kyle and Jessica. We need you to help this baby. I actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter, but I could not help it. You want me to give them money after what they did? My mother's face hardened. Family helps family. Your grandfather would have wanted you to take care of your brother. That baby is innocent in all this. Jessica jumped in. Brad, I know I hurt you. I know what we did was wrong. But this baby did not ask to be born into this situation. Please, we need help. Kyle tried next. Bro, I messed up. I know that. But I am trying to be a man now. I am trying to step up. I just need your help to get started. My mother pulled out a piece of paper. She had written down numbers. $200,000 for a down payment on a house. $50,000 for medical bills and baby expenses for the first 2 years. Kyle is family, she said, and you have always been the responsible one. You can afford this. I stood there looking at these 3 people who were supposed to love me, and all I felt was cold. They had taken everything. My relationship, my trust, my sense of safety in my own home, and now they wanted my money. The money my grandfather left me because he believed I would use it wisely. The money that was supposed to be my future, my security, my freedom. I stood up. The chair scraped loud against the floor. No. My mother blinked. What did you just say? I said no. I am not giving you a single cent. Kyle shot to his feet. Are you serious right now? I am your brother. Jessica started crying harder. Brad, please. We have nowhere else to turn. My mother's voice went sharp. Bradford Michael, you sit back down right now. I ignored her. I looked at Jessica. You cheated on me for months. You brought him into my home, into my bed, and now you want my money to raise the baby you made while you were still with me? I turned to Kyle. I protected you our whole lives. I lied for you. I gave you money every time you asked. I covered for you when you screwed up. And this is how you repay me. You take the one person I loved, and you destroy her trust in me, just like you destroyed mine in you. Then I looked at my mother. And you, Mom, you did not even ask if I was okay. You did not ask how I was handling this. You did not care that I was broken. You only care about Kyle. You always have. He has always been your favorite, and I have always been the backup plan. The responsible one who does not need attention or love because he is strong enough to handle it. My mother stood up, her face red. If you walk away now, you are no longer my son. I stopped at the door. I turned back and looked at her. Then I guess I do not have a mother anymore. Kyle ran after me. Brad, wait. We can figure this out. We can work something out. I kept walking. There is nothing to figure out. You two made your choice. Now live with it. I got in my car and drove away. As I watched that house disappear in my rearview mirror, I felt something I had not felt in months. Relief. The first thing I did was move. I found a 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, not far from where Jessica and I used to live, but different enough that I did not see ghosts on every corner. I signed the lease the same week. I packed up everything in 2 days, donated half of it, and started over. New couch, new bed, new everything. If I was going to rebuild my life, I was not doing it surrounded by reminders of what I lost. I threw myself into work. My manager noticed. Within a month, I was promoted to senior engineer. The raise was significant, but more than that, it gave me something to focus on. I stayed late. I volunteered for projects. I became the person everyone went to when they needed something done right. Marcus joked that I was turning into a workaholic, but he also understood. He knew I needed the distraction. I also started taking care of myself in ways I never had before. I joined a gym and went every morning before work. I learned how to cook real meals, not just pasta and jarred sauce. I took up running and joined a local trail group that met on weekends. I met people who knew nothing about my past. People who saw me as just Brad, not as the guy whose brother stole his girlfriend. With the inheritance, I met with a financial advisor. A real one, not just someone trying to sell me insurance. We set up a diversified portfolio. 500,000 went into a mix of index funds and real estate investment trusts. 200,000 stayed liquid in high-yield savings. And with 100,000, I did something that would have made my grandfather proud. I established a scholarship fund in his name for engineering students from low-income families. It was not huge, but it would help 5 students a year with their tuition. Every time I signed the paperwork, I thought about how my grandfather wanted me to use this money wisely. I was honoring that. I even traveled. I took a week and flew to Iceland by myself. I hiked glaciers soaked in hot springs and sat in a tiny guest house watching the northern lights through the window. It was the first time in my adult life I had gone somewhere alone, and I realized I actually liked my own company. I was not lonely, I was free. But while I was building myself up, I heard through mutual friends that Kyle and Jessica were falling apart. Marcus had a friend who knew someone who worked at the bar where Kyle used to work. Word was that Kyle got fired after getting into a fight with a customer. Jessica had to quit her teaching job because her pregnancy was complicated. She had severe morning sickness that lasted all day, and she could not be around the noise and chaos of an elementary school classroom. Without her income and without Kyle's job, they moved into my mother's house. I did not reach out. I did not gloat. I just kept living my life. My mother left me voicemails. At first, they were angry. "You are selfish. You are cruel. You are not the son I raised." Then they shifted. "Brad, please call me back. Kyle needs help. We all made mistakes." I deleted them without listening all the way through. I had said everything I needed to say. By month 3, I heard that Kyle was trying to borrow money from old friends. Nobody was lending. Word had gotten around about what he did. People might forgive a lot of things, but sleeping with your brother's girlfriend is not one of them. Jessica tried posting on social media one of those fundraising posts about a young couple expecting their first baby. She did not mention the full story, obviously. The post raised $300. Someone in the comments asked, "What about the baby's uncle?" Jessica deleted the comment, but not before plenty of people saw it. Month 4, my mother had to sell her house. I found out through a neighbor who reached out to ask if I knew. She had racked up credit card debt helping Kyle and Jessica, and she could not keep up with the mortgage payments anymore. They moved into a small rundown apartment on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place with thin walls and a parking lot full of broken down cars. Jessica gave birth in month 5, a boy. They named him Danny. I only knew because Marcus saw the birth announcement on Facebook. There were no photos of a nursery, no expensive strollers or designer onesies, just a plain hospital photo and a request for people to donate gently used baby items. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Tired of being connected to people who saw me as a resource instead of a person. Then, 6 months after I walked out of that dining room, I ran into my mother at the grocery store. I was picking up ingredients for dinner. Sophia, the woman I had started seeing a month earlier, was coming over, and I wanted to impress her with my newfound cooking skills. I was debating between salmon and chicken when I heard someone say my name. I turned. My mother stood there with a half-full cart. She looked older, thinner. Her hair had gone almost completely gray, and there were lines around her eyes I did not remember. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You look good," she said. "You look happy." I replied, because it was true. I was happy. Maybe for the first time in a long time, I was genuinely content. She nodded slowly. "Kyle and Jessica are struggling. The baby has health issues, reflux or something. They need money for special formula, for doctor visits." She paused. "They need help, Brad." I felt that familiar tug. The one that had controlled me my whole life. The one that said, family means sacrifice. Family means putting others first. But I had learned something in those 6 months. Family does not mean letting people destroy you over and over again. That is not love. That is not loyalty. That is just enabling. I looked at my mother. "That is not my problem." Her face crumpled. "How can you be so cold? That baby is your nephew. He is innocent." I shook my head. "That baby is the result of their choices. I did not create this situation. They did. I am not responsible for fixing it." She started crying right there in the produce aisle. "I was wrong," she said. "I see that now. I should have supported you. I should have chosen you. Please forgive us. Please help us." I felt something loosen in my chest. Not anger, not bitterness, just clarity. "I have forgiven you," I said. "I have forgiven all of you. But forgiveness does not mean I have to save you. It does not mean I owe you anything. You all made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences, just like I had to live with mine." I picked up the salmon and walked past her. I did not look back. A year passed, then another. I kept building the life I wanted instead of the one I thought I was supposed to have. Sophia and I got serious. She was an architect, sharp and independent with her own dreams and her own money. She never asked me for anything except honesty and respect. We moved in together after a year, and I proposed on a hiking trip in the North Cascades. She said yes before I even finished the question. We planned a small wedding with close friends, no big family drama, no expectations, just two people who chose each other. The scholarship fund grew. By the second year, we were helping 15 students annually. I got letters from some of them thanking me, telling me how much it meant to have someone believe in them. One kid told me he was the first in his family to go to college, and without the scholarship, he would have had to drop out. That letter sat on my desk for weeks. It reminded me that money is just paper unless you use it for something that matters. Work kept going well. I moved into an engineering manager role, leading a team of 12 people. I loved it. I loved mentoring younger engineers, helping them navigate challenges I had faced years earlier. I felt useful. I felt valued. Not because of what I could give people, but because of what I could teach them. I stayed in touch with a few mutual friends, and through them, I heard occasional updates about Kyle and Jessica. They got married a few months after Danny was born. A courthouse wedding. No reception. My mother was the only guest. They were still struggling financially. Kyle finally found steady work at a warehouse, but it barely covered rent and groceries. Jessica went back to teaching part-time once Danny was old enough for daycare, but childcare ate up most of her paycheck. They sent me a wedding invitation. I did not respond. They sent a Christmas card with a photo of Danny. I put it in a drawer and forgot about it. My mother and I exchanged occasional text messages, short, surface-level things. "How are you?" "I am fine. Hope you are well." We never talked about what happened. We never addressed the gap between us. It was like we were distant acquaintances instead of mother and son. I was okay with that. I had learned that not every relationship can be salvaged, and that is okay. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a season. Marcus asked me once if I ever regretted walking away, if I ever wondered what would have happened if I had given them the money. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I told him no, because giving them money would not have fixed anything. It would have just delayed the consequences. It would have taught them that they could hurt people and still get rewarded. And it would have taught me that my pain did not matter as much as their comfort. I refused to learn that lesson. I learned other things instead. I learned that trust is not about giving people the benefit of the doubt. It is about watching their actions, not just hearing their words. Jessica and Kyle showed me who they were through their choices. I just had to be willing to see it. I learned that blood does not mean unconditional loyalty. Family is built on respect, not just DNA. Real family does not ask you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. I learned that money reveals character. When my family saw my inheritance, they did not see a person who had been hurt. They saw a solution to their problems. They saw a way out of consequences they created. And when I refused to be their escape hatch, they tried to make me the villain. But I was not the villain. I was just someone who finally learned how to say no. I learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I forgave them for my own peace, not because they deserved it. I forgave them so I could stop carrying around anger like a weight in my chest. But forgiveness did not mean I had to let them back into my life. It did not mean I owed them my time or my energy or my presence. I could forgive and still walk away. Those two things were not contradictory. Most importantly, I learned that happiness is not about having the perfect family or the perfect relationship. It is about choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to sacrifice. It is about building a life that feels right, even if it does not look like what you imagined. I used to think I needed my mother's approval, my brother's respect, Jessica's love. I did not. I just needed my own self-respect. Once I had that, everything else fell into place. 2 years after I walked out of that dining room, Sophia and I got married in a ceremony overlooking the mountains. 50 people, good food, great music, no drama. Marcus was my best man. He gave a speech about how I had gone through hell and came out stronger, and how he was proud to call me his friend. I looked around at the people there, the people who chose to show up for me, and I realized this was my real family. Not the people who shared my blood, but the people who showed up when it mattered. I got one more message from Kyle a few months after the wedding. He sent a long email, pages and pages of apologies and explanations and justifications. He said he was sorry. He said he was young and stupid. He said he hoped one day I could forgive him and we could have a relationship again. I read the whole thing. Then I closed it and did not respond. Some bridges are not meant to be rebuilt. My mother sent a card congratulating me on the marriage. It was generic. The kind you buy at a drugstore when you do not know what else to say. I put it with the other cards and never mentioned it to Sophia. There was no point. That chapter of my life was closed. Sometimes people ask me if I ever think about reaching out, if I ever wonder how Danny is doing, if I ever feel guilty. The answer is no. Not because I am cold or heartless, but because I have learned where my responsibility ends. I did not betray anyone. I did not destroy any relationships. I did not create a child I could not afford. Those were their choices, and choices have consequences. My only responsibility was to myself, and I honored that. Sometimes the hardest thing is not walking away from people who hurt you. It is staying away when they come back asking for more. It is holding your boundaries when everyone tells you that family means forgiveness and second chances. But I learned that some people do not deserve second chances. Some people will take and take and take until you have nothing left. And the only way to protect yourself is to stop giving. I used to think family meant everything. Now I know that self-respect means more. I used to think love meant sacrifice. Now I know that love without respect is just manipulation. I used to think I needed them. Now I know I just needed to believe in myself. They wanted my inheritance. They wanted my money. They wanted me to pay for their mistakes and their choices and their betrayal. I said no. I watched their world collapse, and I built my own world instead. A better one. One where I mattered. One where my pain was not dismissed. One where I was not just a backup plan or a safety net. And you know what? I have never been happier. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to walk away from family? Have you ever had to choose yourself over people you loved? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I would love to hear your stories. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you have not already, because I share more stories like this. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to set boundaries even with family. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it helped you in some way. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. And you deserve people who see your worth. Until next time,